Your grandfather's wrench is a solid orange brick. The adjustable jaw hasn't moved since the Reagan administration. You've sprayed it with WD-40 so many times, the can is empty and your hopes are dead. You've scrubbed it with wire brushes until your knuckles bled. You've considered throwing it away, except it's the only thing he left you, and tossing it feels like tossing him. So you buy the expensive stuff, the navel jelly, the evaporust, $20 a gallon, 30, 40. You soak it overnight. You scrub again. The rust laughs at you. The rust always wins. But here's what the hardware store doesn't want you to know. The most effective rust-stripping chemical on Earth costs less than $3 per gallon. It's non-toxic. It won't burn your skin. It won't eat through your workbench. And you can find it at any farm supply store, sitting on a shelf between the horse feed and the chicken scratch. Molasses. Yes, the sticky brown syrup your grandmother put in cookies. The stuff horses go crazy for. The byproduct of sugar production that humanity has been throwing away for centuries. It strips rust like nothing else, not through brute force, but through chemistry so elegant it makes industrial solvents look like medieval torture devices. Here's the science, and it's beautiful. Rust is iron oxide. It's what happens when iron, oxygen, and water get together and decide to destroy everything you love. The iron atoms bond with oxygen atoms in a crystalline structure that flakes, spreads, and eats deeper into the metal with every passing day. Most rust removers attack this structure with acid, hydrochloric, phosphoric, oxalic. They dissolve the rust, sure, but they also dissolve the metal underneath. They pit, they weaken. They leave the surface chemically active, which means it rusts again faster than before you started. Molasses works differently. It uses a process called chelation, from the Greek word for claw. Inside that thick brown syrup are organic compounds called chelating agents, cyclic hydroxamic acids specifically. These molecules have a particular affinity for iron. Not steel, not the healthy metal underneath, just the iron that's already been stolen by oxygen and turned into rust. The chelating agents reach into the rust, grab those iron atoms like tiny molecular claws, and rip them free from the oxygen bonds. The iron oxide becomes water-soluble. It dissolves into the liquid and floats away. What's left behind is clean, bare metal. Not pitted, not weakened, not chemically stripped. Just metal, waiting to be used again. And here's the beautiful part. Molasses doesn't touch healthy steel. You can leave a part soaking for weeks, and the chelators will only attack the rust. The scraping marks on a machine's surface stay intact. The threads on a bolt remain sharp. It's selective chemistry, surgical precision delivered by something that costs less than a gallon of milk. Here's how you do it. Step 1. Get molasses. Not the fancy organic stuff from the grocery store. You want feed-grade molasses from an agricultural supply store. It comes in gallon jugs for a few dollars. Sugar beet molasses works too, which is common in Europe. Any variety that hasn't been desulfured is ideal because the sulfur helps precipitate the dissolved iron out of solution. Step 2. Mix your solution. The ratio doesn't need to be precise, but most people use somewhere between 1 part molasses to 9 parts water for moderate rust, or 1 to 4 for heavily corroded pieces. Pour the mixture into whatever container fits your parts. Plastic buckets work, 5-gallon pails, old drums. I've seen guys build tanks large enough to drop entire car fenders into the solution. The only limit is your ambition. Step 3. Submerge the rusty metal and wait. This isn't a quick fix. Molasses rust removal takes days, not hours. For light surface rust, you might see results in 48 hours. For the kind of orange nightmare that's been sitting in a wet garage since before you were born, expect 1 to 2 weeks. The solution will slowly turn dark as it pulls iron out of the rust. You might see fermentation start after a week or so. Bubbles, foam, a smell like someone's brewing weird beer in your shop. That's normal. The fermentation actually helps, producing additional acids that assist the chelation process. Step 4. Remove and neutralize. When the rust is gone, pull your parts out and rinse them immediately with clean water. Here's the critical moment. Bare steel wants to rust again instantly. This is called flash rust, and it can start forming within minutes of exposure to air. You need to neutralize and protect the metal before it has time to oxidize. Dry the part fast. Use hot water for the final rinse. It evaporates quicker. Hit it with a hairdryer or put it in a warm oven. Some people dunk cleaned parts in a baking soda solution first to neutralize any residual acidity. The moment that metal is dry, coat it with oil. Motor oil, mineral oil, gun oil, anything that creates a barrier between the steel and the atmosphere. If you're planning to paint, do it immediately. Every second that bare metal sits exposed is a second it's trying to rust again. Now let me tell you why WD-40 isn't the answer, even though everyone reaches for it. WD-40 stands for water displacement, 41st formula. That's what it was designed to do, displace water. It's a solvent mixed with light oil, and it evaporates fast. When you spray it on rust and walk away feeling accomplished, here's what actually happens. The solvent evaporates in hours. The thin oil film that's left provides temporary protection, but it's so minimal that humidity pushes right through it. In some cases, machinists have reported that WD-40 actually seems to attract moisture after it dries, leaving metal worse off than before. It's a temporary fix, a band-aid on a hemorrhage, a feel-good spray that lets you pretend you've solved the problem while the rust keeps eating. Molasses doesn't just mask rust. It removes rust at the molecular level, extracting the corrupted iron from the oxide lattice and leaving nothing behind but clean metal ready for permanent protection. The best part? When you're done, the spent molasses solution isn't toxic waste. It's full of iron sucrate, a compound used in organic farming to boost plant growth. You can pour it on your garden. The iron helps with photosynthesis and greening. You've removed rust from your tools and fertilized your tomatoes with the same bucket of liquid. Try doing that with hydrochloric acid. There are limitations, and I won't pretend otherwise. Molasses works on iron and steel. It does not work on aluminum. In fact, it can damage aluminum, pitting the surface. Keep your aluminum parts far away from the molasses tank. It also doesn't work on chrome plating, stainless steel, or galvanized surfaces. Though, to be fair, those materials don't rust the same way iron does anyway. Cast iron can be tricky. Some users report that molasses is slightly more aggressive on cast iron than on regular steel, possibly because of the higher carbon content. If you're de-rusting a cast iron engine block or antique stove, check it more frequently and pull it sooner rather than later. The smell can get intense after a week or two of fermentation. Your garage will smell like a distillery. Flies may become interested. If you're married, this may cause domestic complications. Consider keeping the bucket covered with a loose-fitting lid that allows gases to escape while keeping insects out. And finally, be aware that the process reveals whatever's underneath the rust. If your metal has deep pitting, craters where the rust has eaten into the structure, the molasses will expose that damage. It's not creating the pitting. It's showing you what the rust already destroyed. Sometimes that's hard to look at. Sometimes you realize the tool was too far gone to save. But at least you'll know the truth. Let me tell you what this looks like in practice. I dropped a set of C-clamps into molasses solution last month. These things were orange, solid orange. The threads were frozen. The swivel pads had rusted to the frames. I couldn't have gotten $10 for the whole pile at a garage sale. After 1 week in a bucket of 10-to-1 molasses water, I pulled them out, hosed off the brown syrup, and watched in something close to disbelief. The rust wiped away like slime. Underneath was gray, bare metal, smooth and clean. I could see machine marks on the threads. The adjustment screws turned freely. I dried them immediately with a heat gun, hit them with light oil, and put them back to work. Total cost? About 50 cents worth of molasses and a week of patience. Industrial rust removers use the same chelation chemistry, by the way. Evaporust, for example, is a commercial chelating solution that works beautifully, but it costs 20 times what molasses costs. You're paying for packaging, marketing, and the convenience of a faster reaction time. If money is no object, go ahead. But if you've got time and a few bucks, molasses does the same thing for the price of horse feed. Here's the summary, stripped down to what matters. Rust is iron oxide. Molasses contains chelating agents that specifically bind to iron and make it water-soluble. Submerge rusty steel in a molasses solution, 1 part molasses to 9 parts water, and wait a week. The rust dissolves into the liquid. The base metal stays intact. Rinse, dry immediately, and oil or paint before flash rust can form. It's slow. It's unglamorous. It smells weird after a few days. But it works. And when you pull that wrench out of the bucket and see clean gray steel where there used to be orange death, you'll understand something important about chemistry, patience, and the power of solutions that actually solve problems instead of just covering them up. That wrench your grandfather left you? It's not garbage. It's not too far gone. It's just been waiting for you to learn the trick he probably knew all along. That sugar isn't just for baking. Sometimes it's for resurrection.